Balloons and streamers are welcoming you to the traditional pep rally at Sacred Heart High School in Yonkers, New York. Students cheer on the school sports teams and friends. The collected food boxes on the other side of the gym are being organized for each soup kitchen and shelter in Yonkers. My high school English teacher, John Serri, checks his homeroom boxes to make sure all the essential Thanksgiving food is ready to go. After the pep rally rush, Mr. Serri sits down to talk to me about the day's events.
I think it's fun to be silly every once in a while in school, and also there's obviously a positive message behind this as far as giving to the community and providing families for food. And I think, and obviously that's the number one thing that goes on here, but I also think it's fun to just have a day where school isn't for sitting at a desk and learning. I think you need that well-roundedness to your school experience, and I think this day provides that. And school should be fun more often than it's not.
Serri began teaching English when I was a freshman in high school 8 years ago. In his time at Sacred Heart High School, Serri has made it a tradition for students to keep a journal as part of their English grade.
Journals were something that I had done my junior year of high school in one English class. I always thought it was a good practice. I think it's a good way to get to know your students, and I think it's also a good way just to get students into writing about themselves. And that's really the biggest purpose behind it, is, in school there's so much writing for teachers, so much writing that's not necessarily fun writing. So I think the journals are a good opportunity to just learn to appreciate writing. And I also like the idea that, if someone keeps a journal their freshman year, maybe their senior year, they find the journal someplace, they get to look back at it, and that's kind of a great experience to go through.
Born and raised in New York, John Serri studied English literature in both his undergraduate degree at Skidmore College and his master's degree at Iona College.
When I graduated, I worked at a publishing firm for a year in the city, decided I didn't really like offices, and so then I got into teaching, and that was that.
Serri then went back to school to earn his advanced teaching certificate at Lehman College in the Bronx.
When I was in college, I realized how much I kind of enjoyed being in classrooms as a whole, and it just started to occur to me that I'll be a teacher and that's what I'll do.
His inspiration for teaching came from his love of books and high school teachers that guided him along the way.
I think just during high school I really just realized that I really enjoyed reading for pleasure, and so it kind of seemed like the best of both worlds, where that would be my focus. I get to read and write and more about that, basically.
Serri's inspiration for teaching came from the influence of his own high school English teacher.
When I was in high school, my senior year, one of our teachers had an assignment where you had to basically everyone in the class had to read a short story in our short story book and then teach it to the class. After I taught my short story to the class, she pulled me aside. She's like, "You did a really good job with that. You should think about going into teaching and that kind of thing." And when you're a senior in high school, that's the furthest thing from your mind.
Now with his own classroom, Serri uses a combination of prose and poetry to teach and inspire his students.
When I first started teaching here, I probably just taught the books for the most part that were assigned to me. And then over time, I probably just taught books that I like and that I think that the students would like. For instance, I took a young adult literature class at Lehman, and I kind of thought that may be a good bridge for the freshman students, because to give a freshman To Kill a Mockingbird that's never read a book is almost unfair. There needs to be something that maybe speaks to their world a little bit more. So my number one goal when I give a student a book is for them to enjoy it. That's what I want to happen. And I know that's not always going to be the case, but that's really what I try and do more often than not, is just trying to help them have reading become a part of their...
While prose is essential to the classroom, Serri finds that poetry helps in classroom discussion more.
I think one of the benefits of poetry is that it's small. You can read it as a class, basically, and then talk about it immediately. If I assign a class a 30-page reading assignment for homework, I don't know who's read it and who hasn't read it. It's hard to keep track of that, but I can give a student a poem, have them read it in front of me, and we can have a lesson off of that. And I think that it often leads students down their own path to liking poetry, both reading it and writing it.
Outside of the classroom, Serri tells how he keeps his own journal as a way of branching out during the summer breaks.
What I'm trying to get into now, basically just writing my own short stories. And that's one of the things, now that I'm done pursuing graduate degrees, I'm trying to balance my own teaching with my own writing. And that's kind of one of the challenges, but that's almost what summers are for in a lot of ways. So that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment, as far as just trying to trying to write, trying to teach, and trying to combine both of them and make them work.